What's going on, guys? So we are back. I got my father here next to me. You want to say hi to everyone?
Hey folks.
And we are going to do something really interesting. So he is what I would consider to be your most typical truck buyer, not an uninformed truck buyer. He's an engineer, and he's, how long you been an engineer? Pretty much your whole life?
Yeah. Without getting too specific.
Yeah, 24 years in the Air Force. What did you do in the Air Force?
Engineering installation.
Okay, and what aircraft did you work on?
Almost every fighter.
F-4s, F-16s, F-15s, all of them?
Yes.
Okay, and even a few I probably missed, I'd imagine.
F-111.
All of that stuff. He's an old man. He goes way back. So that said, he is going to take a look at some of the newest, most interesting trends in terms of truck tailgate technology. And we're going to talk about him, what he sees as pros, what he sees as cons, what tailgate he would choose from if he could basically pick the tailgate of his choice. We're going to use my Ford as an example, and we're going to use the two GMs here, both the GMC with the MultiPro tailgate and the Chevy with the MultiFlex tailgate. Hang tight. I'll be right back. Okay, so now we've moved around to the back end of these trucks, and yeah, you can definitely tell the height difference between the Trail Boss and the Denali. I'm going to probably say the back end of this truck looks to be about 3 inches taller. You can see that upper belt line right there looks to be about lined up with the top of the bed here. This truck sits significantly higher off the ground, and you can also look at the wheel wells right here, and you can see how much taller they are on the Chevy versus the GMC. But the reason why we're back here is to talk about tailgates. So let me do the magic here of lowering tailgates. Okay, now next we're going to lower the tailgate within the tailgate. Have you operated one of these before, Dad? So if you reach under the lip here, you'll feel a rubber button towards the top. Go ahead and press that. There you are. And then press the button right here and fold it down. Okay, MultiPro tailgate from GMC, MultiFlex tailgate from Chevy. You can see we have some LED lights that we installed right here. They would easily install on the back of this truck as well. Tailgate technology. Most of the manufacturers have engaged in some type of tailgate war, trying to claim that they have the better, more convenient tailgate in the bunch. The Chevy and GMC products definitely have probably the boldest attempt at winning the tailgate wars. First glance, what do you think about these tailgates?
Well, the first glance tells me that you could use either one of them to step up into the bed pretty easily.
Yeah.
That's a definite plus.
What I'm going to do here is I'm going to actually open this one up. Then right here you got a handle to help you get up. All right, so go ahead and hop in there if you don't mind and see what you think.
My knees will complain.
How was that for you?
It's okay. A lot easier than getting into my last Ram.
So, is this a feature you think you would get a lot of use out of if you had this truck?
Actually, I like the one from the Ford that stows in the tailgate for the handle and the step. I think they work better, but I've never tried this before. You probably get used to it.
I don't disagree with what you just said. So the Ford step, the tailgate step, slides out from the tailgate and drops down. But what's nice about it is you don't have to worry about possibly hitting your hitch to have this portion down. So on the back of the Denali here, I'm gonna put this back up. So on the back of the Denali here, you'll see that I have that B&W hitch, which is specifically designed to work with this tailgate so it doesn't hit it when it goes down. But if you look at the gap right here, you'll actually see how close it is to making contact with the tailgate. So you can imagine a traditional hitch inside of there, you know, you might run into some problems. So With Ford, yeah, I believe the system's a little easier to use, but to GM's credit, this is a more flexible and multi-usable type tailgate. So the way that they design this is that when it's down like this, it turns into a really convenient step. It also turns into a really convenient tailgate to sit on because it turns into a really nice bench. And I think for the most part, just about everyone who owns a pickup truck at some point uses the tailgate as a bench. So this is really, really convenient to get into the bed of the truck. Secondly, you know, this thing works as what they call a load stop. So if I close this and I close the tailgate, you really can't easily do all of these at the same time. And I open just the top portion right here and flip this up. This is now considered a load stop. So if you put the appropriate sized lumber or any materials back here, maybe a sheet of plywood, you're supposed to be able to essentially butt it up to the end of this and keep it from flying out. Practically speaking though, I don't really foresee myself using it as a load stop ever. It doesn't seem as if it, well, let me correct this. It seems as if you would have to have a very, very specific length piece of material for this to practically work. Because if it's too long, it's going to hang over the top. If it's too short, then it can rotate and possibly just fall into the bed. But what do you think about that?
Actually, what I would like to try, can you lower the tailgate right now?
So you press the one that was closer to the truck?
Yep.
Push that in, flip that up, and press the bottom button.
See now, in this position, that's what I would call a load stop.
That's also a load stop position as well.
This makes more sense to me than having it way up here.
Do you think it's a practical load stop? Could you see yourself loading stuff in here that would practically make sense using this as a load stop?
Well, from this surface to the front of the box, how far is it? Because if you could lay a full sheet of plywood here, 4x8, that would make sense, or 8-foot lumber would make sense if it fit inside the load stop. Otherwise, you're looking for non-standard stuff to try and to keep from sliding out. I'm thinking this is probably getting close to 2 feet. Gosh, that looks like it's almost 8 feet. Where's your tape measure?
Let's get a tape measure. Okay, so we got the tape measure out. We are right under 8 feet.
93 inches, well, about 92 and a half usable.
Yep. Which means a sheet of plywood would not fit here. And then secondly, I don't think this is 4 feet wide, the load stop, which means it would be contacting your hinges right here.
4 feet.
Right at 4 feet. A little more than 4 feet. So, okay. So width-wise, you have the width for a sheet of plywood. You just don't quite have the length or the depth.
Right.
Which is crazy that it's only off by such a short amount. I mean, honestly, in my opinion, if they had designed the bed just a few inches longer, not so you didn't have to get the 6.5 foot bed. You could stick with a 5 and, well, actually, this is a 5 3/4 foot bed. Really, a 6 foot bed option probably would have been good. Yep.
5 feet, 10 inches. 70, another 2 inches.
That's it.
They could have got an 8-foot piece of stock in here.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. All right, so this could be a practical use location though, but the only thing we'd have to keep in mind with it though is whatever you put back here would either have to be the right size or it wouldn't have to be able to rotate to possibly come off of the load stop area. All right, so load stop with the tailgate up, load stop with the tailgate down. So this is a position I could see folks using. Workbench.
I thought about that, but I think that the tailgate down, one big flat surfaces makes more sense as a workbench. This is a little bit awkward. Maybe for something specialized that you're having to work on real close up, or with...
Or a laptop. Maybe if you're standing behind a laptop, maybe. But this is only about 10 inches deep. You don't have a lot of depth here, but practical depth is only about 6 inches because of the actual grooves right here.
And it's not flat.
And it's not flat. So that's really the only challenge you'd have with this. It's not a bad space. If this extended from here all the way to here and it was completely flat, that could be a usable workbench, especially if you're working with crimping tools, soldering tools, splicing stuff. You're trying to do some of that work on the back of your tailgate. It would be nice to be able to get nice up and close to it and be able to do that. But because your actual work surface here is, like I said, I mean, practical work surface is only about 6 inches if you're going to lay something on here, and maybe about 10 inches if you're, you know, just using it for any other type of space. I understand what they're trying to do. If anything, it just seemed as if this was going to be a position that would always exist regardless if they built this type of tailgate, so you had to call it something. And this is the workbench configuration. This is my favorite position of all because it lets me reach in and grab things much, much further into the bed than I normally would be able to. I really like this position. This has worked out really well for me. Even with the GMC, whenever we load stuff in there, we go to Sam's Club, we load something in, it slides slightly up. You wouldn't think it, but you really can get some extra depth inside of the bed of this truck. Let's demonstrate. So last time we were out here working on my dad's RV, we used one of these Anderson trailer jack blocks. And this is the one I destroyed with the excavator, and it actually survived. But not only did it survive, but we've used this thing for so many other projects just to kind of hold things up and balance them. And my dad liked it so much, he asked if or where I got this. And I told him, you know what, you can have it, but I want to make it a little bit more challenging for him. So let's close this tailgate real quick. All right. So could you do me a favor, lean over the tailgate and push that as far as you can push it without sliding it, or without sliding it out of reach. All right, now I'm going to give him a little bit more challenge. Right there. If you can reach that without climbing onto the bed and only using the tailgate function, it's yours. So you got to drop this tailgate. You remember how to do that? Nope, can't use tape measure. Doesn't count.
No, you can't change rules.
Can't, no. No, you can't. That doesn't count. Okay, pretend the tape. All right, by the way, my dad's an engineer. All right, now can you reach it?
No.
Try. Don't hurt yourself. Okay, he cannot reach it. But now, with the cool MultiPro tailgate, can you reach it?
Nope.
There we go. Congratulations, you got yourself a jack block. But yeah, just the ability for you to get this much further in. I can reach my hand to almost the center of the wheel wells. That is it's pretty amazing versus having the tailgate up. I probably would be able to reach about here with the tailgate down, or at least the MultiPro version down. I can reach significantly further into the bed of the truck, which makes that very, very convenient. And this is the feature I have used the most since getting the GMC Denali. By far my favorite one of all. And the step does come in handy, I'm going to be honest with you, especially when I was installing the tonneau cover on the back. Being able to flip this thing down really did come in handy. Okay, so to wrap up this segment, what do you think of these tailgates? Are these tailgates that you would really get a lot of use out of if you got them with your truck? Or are these tailgates that you would save that cost and just get a standard, everyday, you know, run-of-the-mill tailgate?
Well, I see there is a third option. I saw it on one of the Rams that you had, and that was a two-piece tailgate that was hinged and would lower flat. And I almost wonder which one would work better. The Ram, obviously you can get closer to the payload with the doors open. Mm-hmm. And it also lays down flat, so you would have a flat surface to work on.
You know, when I had a Ram Limited I was doing a long-term review on, it had that tailgate. It's like a 60-40 split tailgate, or maybe a 70-30 split. But the tailgate was cool for sure, but it didn't really address some of the problems that you have with getting into the bed of your truck. And for instance, on the Chevy, you can drop this down into a step. On the Ford, you can pull it out as a step. On the Ram, there's no assistance to get into the bed unless you get the corner step that drops down right here. And both Ford and GM, at least on the heavy duty trucks, now have corner steps in all their bumpers, whereas Chevy and GMC have been doing this for quite some time. So to be able to step up, a lot of people don't realize this stake pocket right here is actually a hand grip to step onto the corner of your bumper right there to get into the bed of your truck. But that is still a much higher step up than dropping this step down in the GM trucks or pulling out the man step or whatever you want to call it on the Ford trucks. I didn't really have a great understanding of the benefit the Ram tailgate offered when it was in its open position, aside from getting closer into the bed. And I actually did a video on that where I had a tape measure and I was tossing it into the bed of the truck and reaching in. And yes, you can get a whole foot closer to your cargo to grab things, which is a huge perk. And if this was an advantage for me to drop this down, then the Ram certainly would be an advantage there as well, a big one. But you lose a lot of the other cool capabilities and functionalities that these tailgates have. But of the three, what tailgate would you more likely rather see on a truck that you bought?
Of the three, I think that if I had a choice of all three, I would take the Ford tailgate with the step stowed in it and the handle stowed in it, so that to me it just makes more sense. It gets you past the trailer hitch also, like this does. And I think, in my opinion, it's the easiest one to deploy, and it's the easiest one to get onto, especially where the handle is located versus all the other trucks. The interesting thing here with my father's comment is the fact that you've never actually owned a Ford that's had that feature, have you? No.
And have you actually ever...
yours.
Mine, but have you ever used it yourself? Like, I know that when you've gotten into my bed in my truck sometimes, I've already had it out, but have you ever deployed it yourself? Gone through the process of pushing the button, pulling it out, dropping it down, and raising the back up?
I think I did once, just out of curiosity when I first saw it.
Okay, well, you know what? We have an opportunity to do that real quick. So what I want my father to do here for me is I want him to drop this tailgate down, lower the MultiPro section and pull the step out, and then flip the handle up like he's actually owning this truck and using it. And I want to see how he feels about doing it on this truck. Then we'll go over to my 450 and I'll let him do it on that truck. Okay.
Okay. Don't miss the hole in my jeans. Shows that I work.
Just lift it up.
Oh, there. Just wasn't.
Now lift the whole thing up together. You did forget to put the handle away, but it's pretty easy to stow afterwards. And just
no, it's not.
Oh, never mind. There you go. Now let's go over to the Ford and check it out. Okay, so now we're at the Ford. Okay. You gotta kind of press and pull at the same time. It's a weird motion. Drop it down. That's already out. You just step on it.
It's a bit higher step. Feels about 2 feet higher in the air.
And it's probably just because the truck sits higher. Okay. Okay, how'd you feel about that?
Feels like they're about the equal amount of work, but the end result, this one I like better.
You like the Ford? Why? What specifically do you like better about it?
Because you don't have to use up space to get into it.
Gotcha. And as you can see, let's look at a side profile here. Look at my hitch. I got the hitch. It extends out, what, probably about 8 inches off the back of the truck. And it doesn't get interference with the tailgate at all. Tailgate can drop down completely without worrying about it hitting the hitch, which is probably the best perk of that specific feature. But yeah, the tailgate on the truck, on the Ford truck, I've really liked. I've never had any issues with it at all. Works pretty well. Over time, it doesn't spring out as easy as it used to. Like, you press a little button and it doesn't spring out a little bit so you can grab it, but it's still not that difficult to pull out. It is assisted, which is nice. Let's go back over to the GM trucks. Okay, so in terms of tailgate wars, now that you've had a chance to actually operate the Ford tailgate all by yourself, you still think the Ford's the winner here?
I think the Ford's the winner simply because it doesn't use any of your workspace to open the tailgate and deploy the step and the handle.
Okay. What if we got this with a slightly longer bed that gave us the ability to carry a full 8-foot sheet of plywood with that load stop in place? Would that bump the GM tailgates up above the Ford in terms of convenience and functionality, or would you still prefer the Ford?
I think I still prefer the Ford, because if you were loading, or if you were using that load stop, you would not be able to use your step unless you were straddling the material that it was holding.
That's true. That's true, because it takes up, like you said, part of the top of your tailgate when it's deployed. That makes a lot of sense. Well, very cool. Well, Dad, I really appreciate your feedback and the comments you've given, because quite frankly, you are the typical truck buyer. You're the person that would go out to a dealership lot, check out the new technology from all the different manufacturers, and make an unbiased decision on which truck you would specifically prefer to get. When we were at the front, he mentioned when we were talking about the two trucks against each other, he was talking about Ram being kind of the truck he leans towards. But they've all done a fantastic job of trying to address customer concerns and build trucks that people want to buy, and I think they've done a pretty good job overall. Anyways, again, really appreciate you coming on the channel and giving your perspective on things. And you know, some of these things you just don't think about unless you get a second person perspective on how they would use it and what they see as being benefits as well as negatives. Anyways, guys, I sure hope you enjoyed this video. If you haven't had a chance, please take a moment, subscribe to the channel, give me a thumbs up, and we'll talk to you again very soon.